it's vitally important for me to have them understand that there's a lot of shoulders and backs that you are standing on. And you need to know who they are, what
Hmm.
they are, why they are. Add that to what your contribution can and should and shall be. But don't think that you're going to get that and not know any reference to the historical past.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to Right Now with Rhenotha. And tonight, I'm so excited to have with me the one and only Mark, the gross saxophonist. Let me see, alto sax, soprano sax. Okay, just a consummate musician that he is. He is the director of jazz instruction at New Jersey Performing Arts Center, world-renowned jazz musician, Mark the Grove. I don't want to do a virtual applause.
Oh,
Let me
well,
do a real applause.
thank you, thank you, thank you for, folks always say thank you for that great introduction, and I really do. Thank you so much. Good to
Oh,
be.
you're so welcome. Well deserved. Well deserved.
Thank.
I'm just impressed and excited that you are upholding the standard of jazz in 2026.
Yeah,
And in the way that you do.
yeah.
And so let me just get on in your business, okay? Because that's
Okay,
what I do.
okay.
Right? Because jazz isn't just about music, it's about history, it's about culture. And you know that language fluently, right? And of
Yeah,
course it started with gospel music,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
It
yeah.
started with gospel music. You wanna how did gospel music shape your ear?
Yeah, well, I grew up in that. I grew up in Baltimore, and my father was at the time when we were children, he was the deacon. He was all my parents were always in the church. They always had us in the church. We grew up in a Pentecostal church. And later on, my father became the pastor of the church. Now, I'm the youngest of seven. So
Wow.
that meant that and it was a small, in Baltimore, it was a little small storefront church. So we were the band, we were the choir, we were the
I
ushers.
know, I know it all too well. I know it all.
Right, right. So when we got older, we would joke and say, when we get older, we ain't never going back to church, right? Can't keep us out of the church. That really kind of formed everything that I do, especially
Mm,
in music, because I think it gave me not only a sense of the connection of the spiritual connection beyond the theoretical things that I, of course, acquired, but understanding what the power of music, the vibration of music can do for people. To people who were disparagingly just trying to get through day to day, but music was something that just uplifted them. So fast forward to where I am now,
yeah.
we'll talk about. I'll give a brief brush of, like, I understand the importance of what my mission is at NJPAC, and we can talk
Yeah.
about that as we go on through the conversation. But that was the foundation right there, through my parents.
Excellent. I mean, your story is unique to you, but it's also it's the story of a lot of Black musicians in
Absolutely.
R&B, in all genres of music. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade,
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely. I mean, yeah, you
Right.
can go as far back or as early back as people like, of course, most notably Whitney Houston and so many great, R&B singers, to jazz musicians who equally, were influenced, if not growing up in it. Duke Ellington, John Coltrane, Thelonious Monk, all these, amazing musicians that we know of in that genre have had some connection with gospel music that led them to ultimately doing what they did. And I don't think it was a separation of that. When you
Sure.
talk about somebody like Duke Ellington, his music resonated through all of that, through the works he wrote and conducted, to convincing the great Mahalia Jackson to do a record with him, who said she would never do
She
secular
would
music.
never.
Yeah. So yeah, so many stories of musicians that have kind of been touched by the music.
Right. So gospel was your foundation.
Yeah.
But in the genre that you're in now, who were some of your mentors, your earliest mentors?
My earlier mentors, so again, grew up in Baltimore. I went to the Baltimore Performing School for the Performing Arts, and
Oh.
I would say my teachers. You know, again, I had teachers, but what was interesting, Renata, is that when I was younger, I thought I was going to be a classical saxophonist.
Really?
I was studying all of this French classical music. My teacher went to the Paris Conservatoire and he studied with some of the gurus of classical saxophone. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I thought I was going to do. I was still in the jazz band, but it was my brother, my oldest brother, who plays guitar, who would bring us to some of the local older musicians in Baltimore to just kind of, on Saturdays, we would go by there and they would open up the real book and teach us
Yeah.
songs. And then my brother, youngest in age to me, Vincent, who plays trumpet, I would be in my room practicing this classical stuff, and he'd be like, "Man, you better check out some Charlie Parker, or some Cannonball, or some John Coltrane."
Right.
You know,
Right.
so my earlier influences probably, I mean, not even before I even got to jazz. Gospel wise, Bernard Johnson, he was a great gospel jazz saxophonist.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Grover. I loved me some Grover Washington Jr. And then, of course, the pillars, I call it my ABCs, Adderley, Bird, and Coltrane. Those three, I
Yeah.
started learning my ABCs.
Yeah.
It was my formative and still are
Mm-hmm.
inspirations.
And now I know you mentioned your dad, your brother. Was there and then your teacher. What were there others who saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself?
Yeah, I mean, as my career progressed, so going to Berkeley again, I was
Darling.
just deep. Yeah, I think those years, so many of my contemporaries who are on the scene now, we would just live, sleep, eat, and breathe music. People like
Mm-hmm.
Delphio Marcellus, Javon Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
Mark Whitfield, uh, Antonio Hart, who we grew up as kids together and college. Um,
Nice.
Roy Hargrove. So many of us kind of came through the halls of Berkeley, and I think I learned as much from my peers as I did my teachers, because those are the ones I was spending most of my time with. And
Mm-hmm.
then, as we talked before we were recording, when I was in college, I did pledge one of the Divine Nine, Alpha Phi
Okay.
Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And even with talking with and learning from through the fraternal thing, the brothers there, of again the importance of Black culture as it related to so many things in and outside of music. I poured that into my music, and then finding out how many, people that I admired were a
Mm-hmm.
part of the fraternity, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
makes sense,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was so many mentors I had of my own contemporaries as well as older states.
Cool. Cool. And you've played with I
Oh,
read in your bio. Just give me just name drop.
I
Go.
mean, yeah, I'm a name drop, not for the sake of name dropping, but I'm proud. Jimmy
You know,
Heath,
yeah.
James Moody, Dizzy Gillespie, Dave Holland, uh, uh, Buster Williams, the Duke Ellington
Mm-hmm.
Orchestra,
Mm-hmm.
and just every, Freddie Hubbard, Nat Adderley, Jimmy Cobb.
And
I
it's
mean,
and it's not about name dropping, but
yeah,
it's also
yeah,
about, letting people know that, those were the greats
yeah,
of this genre. And, for you to have had the privilege of
yeah,
working alongside them is just
yeah.
extraordinary.
It was very extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
And also, one of the earlier bands I worked with was Lionel Hampton and the
Mm,
Leonard Big Band. And in that band, he would always have guests that would tour with us. People like, Sarah Vaughan, or I remember once we were on tour at the Nice Jazz Festival, and, huge outdoor festival. The the dressing room tent that they set up for us was
mhm.
right next to the tent of James Brown.
Ow! I
Exactly.
feel
So,
good.
come on. And I think
Yeah.
that's good. So I took a buddy of mine. I was like, bro, we are going next door to this tent. We're going to meet Mr. James Brown. And he was so cool about it. Of course, properly asked if I could meet Mr. Brown. His
Hmm.
management said absolutely. And he spent a good 30, 40 minutes just talking to us. And I thought
Yeah.
that, again, a part of being privy to a deeper insight of the history of music and the culture and the things
Yeah.
that led to all, the package of who I am is a
Hmm.
result of that kind of exposure and opportunity. So again, like you say, it's not about name droppers. It's just that I came along during a really fortunate time. I was
Yeah.
in New York in the late 80s. So a lot of these cats were still around. Elvin Jones, Art Blakey, Max Roach, Nina Simone,
Uh-huh.
so Abby Lincoln, like I got to see and get to know and spend a lot of quality time with a lot of these people. 2 in the morning, I'm sitting at the dinner table with Elvin Jones. His wife is fixing us food after a gig, and I'm asking him about John Coltrane.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah,
Um, I don't want to, um, so I'll say this. It is in 2026, musicians who are actually talented don't necessarily have that
no,
exposure in
no,
2026 to, how you were exposed and how you came up in music and had that kind of mentorship and tutelage, being
yeah,
under the tutelage of the greats, I don't want to bash, but in 2026, the musicians who are trying to be musicians now, they got the internet, and
yeah,
they and not really substantive
yeah, yeah.
tutorship, And speaking of tutorship, again, you are the dean, Big Brother Almighty. The
Right.
director of jazz instruction at New Jersey Performing Arts Center. And,
Yes.
you now are the
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
teaching young people
Yeah.
at New Jersey Performing Arts Center. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I've been a part of that program for a couple of decades now, in fact. And I think
Mm,
like what we're saying, for me, it became important for me to do what was done for me in that,
yeah,
like we mentioned, all of these greats who I was around and had exposure to and time to spend time with and learn from. I now have to take that same responsibility and teach this next generation. But
absolutely.
as we know and as we see, my generation was completely different. We would go and seek these cats out,
Yes.
whatever cost. It's
Yes.
not the case now. It's almost unfortunate, but the mindset is that, like you're saying, that they're just going to get is whatever they can get from the internet or from their phone and think that that is enough, not to bash any of the young talent now, but to think that's
Absolutely.
enough. And to think that what they're offering is valid enough or equal to some of the pillars that
Right.
have come before them.
Right.
Like, and I try to, and I should also note that the young folk that I have stewardship over at NJPAC are teenagers. They're from 13 to 18 years old. So
Hmm.
that it's vitally important for me to have them understand that there's a lot of shoulders and backs that you are standing on. And you need to know who they are, what
Hmm.
they are, why they are, and add that to what your contribution can and should and shall be. But don't think that you're going to get that and not know any reference to the historical past. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so at NJPAC, I take pride in being able to be a mentor and give them the necessary tools to get to the next phase of where they're trying to get to.
How are you finding young people? So the young people that come through NJPAC, um, are they young people that says, "Hey, I want to be a jazz musician," or are they students who whose parents are saying you're going to do this? Like, is there a balance? Are they coming to it naturally? Like, what's
Yeah,
the setup?
it's a balance. I think most of them are coming there because they have an interest in music or they have some kind of background in music. But of course, there's the handful who are like, they really want it. So they're taking advantage of every opportunity. Being it, you know, one of the great things that we do at the program is that we have master classes where we bring in folk, like Delphio Marcel. If he's in town, I'll bring him in to do a master class.
Oh, oh, and
This
they
year,
just and they don't even get it. They don't even get it. They don't even get like this is like amazing.
yeah,
But
and I try to tell them, I'm like, this is the who's who of music, and not
right.
just as a practitioner, but these, like again, take a guy like Delphio, who I went to school with. I said he's equally respected as a producer, as in as much as he is as a performer. So he's produced records for his all of his brothers. Harry Connick Jr., Marcus Roberts. The list is just a long list of people. Major League, Sony, Columbia Records, blah blah blah,
Right.
or bring in folks like Christian McBride who do a master class talking about, you know, his business uh trajectory of things and also what he does as a performer. So, or bring in people from BMI and ASCAP to talk about publishing and bring in people to talk about how to form websites
Uh-huh,
and marketing and branding and,
uh-huh.
to give them a full scope of what it means to be a musician. So the program gives them that. And then, like I said, there's a handful of them who are like, you could tell that they really want it and they're going to be the ones that's going to
Yeah,
go to the next level with it. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There's a gentleman that I know named David Hardy. He is from my church.
Okay.
I don't, and his family, well, his um his uncle, who is my pastor,
Uh-huh.
is also in Baltimore. And the name of his church is Shiloh Baptist Church of
Oh,
Edgemere.
yeah.
Um, his cousin is Anthony Brown, the gospel music artist. And he went to school. Where did he go? He went to NYU, I think.
Mm. Hmm.
And he studied music. And he is a performer. He is a jazz percussionist.
Yeah,
So his forte is drums. And when I tell you he is sticking to it, I'm so proud of him. He's like
yeah,
33 now.
yeah, yeah.
I would love for you, he it would be
I,
amazing.
yeah, I bet he
Yeah.
knows my nieces and nephews because my nieces and nephews, one of my nephews is a drummer. He plays with Chris Bodie and
Hmm.
still lives in Baltimore.
Mm,
Um, and I have nieces and nephews that are like I am in the jazz realm. They're the same
yeah.
over in the gospel space, but I
Yeah.
bet he probably knows some of them. But I
Yeah.
would love to meet him. Yeah,
I mention him because he is like really sticking with the jazz and making sure young people and folks in his age range are, you know, coming to the concerts. He's
yeah,
having concerts. He's doing,
yeah,
the brunches,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
just so
yeah.
proud of him.
Oh, that's cool.
And he would definitely, benefit from,
Anthony
hearing from
Powell.
a
Okay,
uh, someone like yourself. But
okay.
he's awesome. So given that, we have um like, oh gosh, what's the Samara Joys,
Oh
right?
yeah,
We have the
sure. Yeah,
Samara
yeah,
Joys. We
yeah.
have the um gosh, what's the young now, so before Samara Joy,
Mhm.
there was a young lady from Alexis Moraz.
Oh, well,
Oh,
you're my vocal teacher in my program.
okay. When I tell you
Yeah.
just butter,
Yeah.
okay,
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
not even 30,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
future of jazz
24,
musician.
25, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So future of jazz musicianship. Do you see any more Alexis McBrides, any more Samara Joys coming
Yeah.
up?
I I
Where do you
I
see it going?
I do. I mean, Alexis was one of my students in the Jazz for Teens program years ago. And she came, well, I think I'm privy to be able to see a lot of the ones such as Samara. who compete in that Sarah Vaughan vocal jazz competition.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many amazing young folk that I see come through that. Some win, some don't, but they're equally amazing. But also, like, one of the bands that I play in, it's the Louis Armstrong Museum Big Band. And a lot of those folks are connected with the New York side of things with Lincoln Center, Jazz at Lincoln Center,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and particularly the Juilliard School. But there's an amazing plethora of talent that I see, both vocally and instrumentally.
Yeah.
So I think jazz is in a good space. I think this
Wonderful.
next generation of folk that are coming up and learning are like serious players, serious singers, serious
Yeah.
musicians, even composers. Um, things like the Essentially Ellington concert competition that all these amazing young artists compete in, the
Mm-hmm.
Liga's big band competition. And the James Moody, which I will be adjudicating in a couple days. Linda Moody has this thing competition for aspiring seniors in college or in high school that are going to college to offer them, a substantial scholarship. So um, there's folks coming up the pipeline. Yeah.
Nice. Um, so I'm sure you know the movie Sinners,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There was so much jazz influence in
Yeah.
that movie. And but there was a lot of fusion
Yeah.
with it. Do you see it evolving more in that space?
I think I love that movie because I loved not only from the production side of it, who was it, Ryan Coogler?
Ryan Coogler.
That particular barn scene that everybody talks about, where it's like it's
Yes.
jazz, it's hip hop, it's
Yes.
classical, it's ballet, it's country, it's rap, it's like all
Mm-hmm.
things. I think to me that sort of epitomizes
Yeah.
the scope of what can be and not to put things in a box.
Oh, say it. Yes.
It's like
Say it.
music is music. And it's like, people like, which I respect and I love, like Kendrick Lamar, Robert Glasper, and even like Stephon Harris, who uses things sort of quote unquote outside the box of just this straight ahead jazz thing. I think music should sort of convey whatever that wherever that artist is, and the
Yeah.
message of whatever that is, however they need to use those things to convey their message, that's what it should be. And it shouldn't be relegated to having to be this one thing. I think
Yeah.
in fact, you can look at interviews with Herbie Hancock and so many other, again, of our mentors, and they'll even what they've done years ago, but they'll even tell you how they didn't, and they don't like how it was put in a box.
Yeah.
They never liked the term jazz because, it was like that puts it in a box.
In a box. Right.
So
Um, and then like with the revival of the the movie Michael, right?
yeah, I won't.
With the
Yeah,
revival of the movie the movie Michael, Michael's music now is like being streamed by 16-year-olds, you
yeah,
know? And when you talk about putting music in a box, it's almost as if, we throw something away. No, we
yeah.
don't throw anything away. We
No,
don't throw anything away because it's interwoven in
yeah,
everything, in
absolutely.
all cultures, in all
Yeah,
forms of
yeah,
media,
yeah,
movies,
yeah, yeah,
um
yeah.
plays.
When you think about like just for instance the artist Michael, and how he, again, like how we're talking about the influence of so many things, how he looked at Marcel Marceau and Bob Fosse and James
Mm-hmm.
Brown and
Charlie.
just
Mm-hmm.
so many different people that added to what he ultimately became.
Yep.
It wasn't just like this one view
Yes.
of like influential lane that he kind of delved in. And I think that's why even to this day, his music is not only one still relevant, but still fresh and like we can enjoy it, as if
Yeah.
it was recorded
Yeah.
a year ago.
And that's also, you know, why you are so important, because teaching that to new generations, is what keeps us from being in one lane. It's what keeps music from being just, oh, it got to be this way and not that way, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So I have a game. I
Uh-huh.
love a game.
Okay.
Okay,
So
I
I'm
have
gonna
a
prize that
game.
I win. What do I win? What I get? A new car? Then
Oh!
you're like, oh wait, you get a car. And you
We'll see. We'll see. Okay. All
all
right.
right.
So, it's called Name That Legacy. Okay. And basically, I'm going to name a jazz legend or scenario.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And you're going to give one word, a quick thought, or a short story.
Okay.
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 Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Name that legacy. Here we go.
Uh-huh.
Charlie Parker.
Oh, the ultimate uh example of jazz. I mean,
Mm.
there's a saying. I remember talking to Jimmy Heath. That was a story. And I said, Mr. Heath, what would you say the difference was? Because he got to hear and he knew Charlie Parker as well as he knew and grew up with John Coltrane. I said, what would you say is the difference between John Coltrane and Charlie Parker? He said, well, and he called me, my nickname was Remarkable. He said, well, Remarkable, every saxophone player in the world wanted to play like John Coltrane.
Mm-hmm.
Every musician wanted to play like Charlie Parker. Ah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, look at you. You just so awesome. Okay, here we go. Perfect note versus perfect feeling.
Oh, wow, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a perfect no? I don't strive for a perfect note.
Mm.
Even a slightly out an imperfected note, if it's got the right emote, the right spirit,
Yeah.
I'll take that any day over a A440.
Okay. Yeah. Look,
Yeah,
because nothing is perfect.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, you want to, live in that moment. Yeah.
yeah. I go for
Okay.
the spirit of it and not the note.
Mm-hmm.
I'll miss the note, but if I feel like the vibe is right,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna go with that.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Think it's my last one.
Mhm.
A performance you'll never forget.
A performance I'll never forget. Oh wow, that's a tough one because like I said, I've been around a lot of wonderful people.
Mm-hmm.
So can I give you two stories?
Sure. Yes.
So as the performer, I think one that I'll never forget was the first time I played with Nat Adderley Sr. Of course, my
Mm.
biggest inspiration is Cannonball.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, I get the gig with him and we're in Berlin at this club called the Quasimodo. He has never heard me play, really. We're at the sound check. We do like a 5 minute sound check and we still didn't go any songs. So now it's house full of people. We're on the gig and he's calling songs and every song he looks over to me and he's like, do you know the song? And I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, do you know Cannonball's harmony part? I'm like, yes, sir. Now, mind you, behind me, there's Jimmy Cobb on the drums, there's Walter Brooker on the bass, Robert
Yeah.
on sax, on piano.
Yeah.
So we go through 4 or 5 songs like this, and then he finally says to the audience, he says, well, you'll notice I'm asking my saxophone player every time, does he know this song? It's because we're hearing him for the first time together. And he was like, well, it's obvious he does not know. He does not need me to ask him this. He knows the song. So
He knows
we
it.
play. And so for me, that was so beautiful. and that turned
Yeah.
into 3 years of bliss. On
Wow.
the flip side of that,
Uh-huh.
working with Lionel Hampton,
Mm.
we would do a New Year's Eve gig every year at the Hyatt, the Grand Hyatt in New York City. And the opposite of us was Nina Simone.
Mm.
I'm sitting right right behind the piano bench watching a whole set of
Wow.
Nina Simone.
Wow. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
it was
Oh,
powerful. I'll
I'm
never
sure it was.
yeah,
I'm sure it was.
yeah.
Young, gifted, and black.
That's what I'm saying. It was like just hearing all
Ah,
the iconic songs and,
yes.
for women, they call me Peaches.
Peaches!
And I'm going like, oh my.
Yes.
It was just her, just at the piano. No full
Ah,
band. Just Nina Simone at the
mm.
piano and singing. 45
Yeah.
minutes.
Whew. So of course I have to talk about jazz in Newark.
Yeah.
Um, jazz in Newark, and you're a part of that legacy.
Yeah. Oh,
Of course. Yeah.
yeah.
You want to talk to me about jazz in Newark?
Well, Newark is, it's
Yeah.
kind of like for me, it's always been, as we know, historically an important part of the
Mhm.
jazz fabric, particularly when you talk about this Northeast region. Everybody thinks New
Yeah.
York. Absolutely, absolutely. But Newark also had a huge historical place in that evolution of it, with the organ clubs that was, during the 50s and 60s to now. So what's happening now is I feel like there's this revitalization
Yeah.
of art and culture in Newark. Particularly being at NJPAC, seeing all of the new infrastructure that's going on now. They're building a new arts and education center that's called the Cooperman Center.
Yep.
With what Wayne Winborn is doing over at Rutgers Newark, at Clement's Place, and of course the whole history about who Clement was,
Yeah.
to what Stefan Harris is also doing there at Express Newark. Um, I think Newark is now starting to capture the eye which is why, again, coupled with what I'm trying to do with the 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 jazz program, it's capturing the eye of the nation now. You got Lionsgate that's being built there. You got all these things. So I'm trying to get students prepared in a way where they can have opportunities in these spaces, not only just
Yeah.
a practitioner, but a composer, lighting design, backstage design, um, uh, being able to play for film and industry, things of that nature. So Newark is taking a strong, strong seat in the next phase of, I believe, what's going to happen in the next 10 years, particularly with these young folk that are learning now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of people always say, oh, like you said, New York, New York, New York, but a lot
Oh,
started in Newark.
in Newark. It has.
Especially because Sarah Vaughan lived
Yeah.
here.
William
And
Shorter and, you know, it's just so many wonderful musicians, past and present, who,
Mhm.
and most of them live in that immediate area of New
Right.
Jersey, Newark or South Orange or West Orange or somewhere. But it's always been and it still is a vital part of keeping
Absolutely.
thriving.
I heard that Amiri Baraka used to have salons at his house all the time, just like
Yeah.
greats would show up. Were you
Sure.
around during it?
No, I was not. I was not. But what's cool about that? So every
Yeah.
year with INTERPAC, we celebrate the International Jazz Day.
Hmm.
And last year, I was able to get the mayor to come and do spoken word with my
Yeah.
students. That was
Nice.
like
Yeah.
so killing, so killing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because his father, Amiri Baraka, poet
Yeah,
laureate for the state
sure,
of New Jersey, a
sure,
world-renowned poet,
sure.
right
Yeah,
here in Newark, New
yeah.
Jersey, on 11th Street and on the
That's right.
number blocks.
That's right. Right. And that's
On the
still a
number block.
poet scene, in Newark. So it's like
Yes.
all these thriving things are still
Yeah.
going on, um,
Yep.
culturally. Yeah.
Culturally. And thanks to our mayor. Yeah, thanks to our
Oh, of
mayor, Raj
course.
J.
Yep.
Baraka, because he's an artist himself. Yep.
Yeah. My frat
Yeah.
brother.
That's right. That's right. So again, I will always say if you need a soloist,
I can give you a call.
right,
You good?
bro.
You got
Okay.
it? You
I ain't
ready?
scared. Listen, I ain't scared of like Alexis Moran,
That's
okay?
okay.
But
Okay.
okay, I got a good old gospel for you. I
Okay.
got some good
We always use that, that, that big logical call. Yeah.
Yes, yes. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I got one more question for you.
Okay.
When people hear when people hear your music
Yes.
years from now, what do you want them to feel?
I want them to feel the honesty in my music. We talked about the perfect note and all of that stuff. I don't think any of my music is perfect. I think it's honest in that, particularly this next recording that I'm going to put out in November. It's called The Gospel According to Mark, a jazz trio.
Mm.
So again, going back to my roots, right? It's going to parallel the story of Christ from the baptism all the way through crucifixion, resurrection. Core jazz quintet, amplified with the gospel choir, string orchestra. I have poets on it. I have a rapper on it. I have a DJ on it, percussion, the whole nine, right? So to your question, I think when people listen to my music now and then years and decades pass, I want them to feel that, again, I was not trying to necessarily put my music in a one particular box, but the things that have influenced my life are the things that have kind of resonated through my music. And I was not afraid to incorporate those things in my music. And again, it's just this is what it is. It's a pure, honest, here's
Mhm.
opening up myself to you. Hopefully it will resonate in a way that will make people feel a positive influence in helping to make the world a better place.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
And Mark Gross, you are truly amazing.
Uh,
Thank you so much for being here. Okay, I'm smiling ear to ear. My cheeks hurt. My cheeks hurt. Thank you for again gracing me with your presence for right
oh,
now
my
with
pleasure.
Renatha.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Thank you.
right. So folks, you can make sure you check out Mark's website, markgrossmusic.com, right?
Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
Markgrossmusic.com and send your kids to him, please. Okay.
There
Over
you go.
in
Right. Right.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, because he studied from the greats and now he is one of the greats. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
That's absolutely my pleasure.
All right. And
All right.
thank you for tuning in to Right Now with Renata. We'll see you next week. Bye.